BBC Radio. 6 Music. Celebrating 35 years since the release of the iconic album. 6 Music's deep dive into Disintegration. Take 6 Music with you. Listen live on the BBC Sounds app. BBC Radio. 6 Music. 6 Music. Right now, it's Lauren Laverne.
Everybody who's sending us messages about what The Cure's Disintegration means to you, what you were up to in 1989. Lots of nice ones coming in. Sean in Rotherham says, Lauren, Disintegration saved me. I was a lonely 17-year-old who'd immigrated from South Africa. The Cure opened a door to a wonderful world of music that made me feel I belonged to something special. It's up there with the most transformative album ever. 6 Music's also a family I feel like I belong to. Of course you do, Sean. Lots and lots of love to you, and thank you. Went to see The Cure on this tour, says this texter. Amazing. A long and uncomfortable coach journey from Pontefract, West Yorkshire to Birmingham, but it was worth it. I still remember the rather outrageous outfit I wore. Please send me a full description. And Annie says, growing up in Australia, being a 16-year-old art student, I heard there was an overseas band playing at my local music pub venue. I snuck in as usual, didn't know who they were, and was blown away by what I heard. I later found out I'd seen The Cure. I still loved them to this day. Can you imagine seeing The Cure at a pub in the outback? I'm imagining the outback, obviously. It might not have been, but that's what I'm imagining. Absolutely incredible. Lots of messages coming in. Neil in Corby says 89, what a year. It was The Cure, New Order, Bunnymen, Disintegration. What an album. Thank you for playing Vanishing Point to BBC Sounds. Getting a bash in today. This texter says, Lauren, I was 14 in 1989 and a huge fan of The Cure.
6 Music. Cloudbusting.
My very first gig was the Disintegration tour at the NEC. On the coach back, I had to sit with a group of goths on the back seat, but they didn't believe I was a, quotes, real Cure fan. They challenged me to list all the Cure singles to date, which I did. Woke up with one of them asleep on my shoulder. If you want to send a message that takes you back to 1989 or the album Disintegration, or share what it means to you, then we'd love to hear from you today. You don't have to have been around in 89. Of course, so many people have come to The Cure in years after that, and it means just as much to them. I remember taking my son, my eldest, just sitting enraptured, listening to them. We were watching them at Headline Glastonbury. We were so far up the hill you couldn't even see the stage, and he sat there for hours, like not just completely hypnotised by the music. You couldn't even see what was happening, and it made me observe that Robert Smith has perfect diction even these days when they headlined just a few years ago.
Deep dive into Disintegration.
Loving your messages today. Thank you so much as we take a deep dive into 1989 and The Cure's iconic album Disintegration. We've been inviting you to share with us what that year meant for you, what you were up to. Gary and Stewart's been on. He says, Lauren, 89, I was just getting over my Mel and Kim phase by listening to S Express and Inner City. With regards to The Cure, we had the legend Tim Pope, who directed many of their videos, chatting to our film students at Glasgow Clyde College earlier this week. That's so good to hear, Gary. Sarah in Lewes says 16 in 1989, and they were memorable times. Throwing myself round the kitchen to Pop Will Eat Itself this morning and strapping in for the rest. Caroline in Brighton says 89, the year I was doing A-levels and planning my escape from a small Essex commuter town. Lots of evenings spent seeing indie bands like Carter the Unstoppable Sex Machine at the Square in Harlow at the Cambridge Junction, as well as secret train missions to London to see the Wonder Stuff. Disintegration was my background sound throughout. Great to hear it being appreciated in all its atmospheric glory. And this texter says, Disintegration is the most perfect album. It's been a lifelong friend, like the band itself. They've walked with me through births, deaths, loves, and pretty much everything. I was 18 in 1989. How lucky was I to have this album at that pivotal age? Well, very lucky, but of course it's there for anyone who wants to discover it. Like I said, my own teenager, who's only 16 now, and discovered The Cure a few years ago, and it's been massive for him. So if you want to share a message, whether you were around in 89 or not, what does this album mean to you? We are taking a deep dive into 1989 and The Cure's album Disintegration, playing the whole thing out track by track throughout the day, and inviting prominent fans of the band to share what the record means to them. But of course, it's our show, so we want to hear from you. It's all about the Six Music family. Oh man, that bell tree gets me every time, sending that one out to my 16-year-old. It's his last day at school together today. Don't know how that works. He was only born 5 minutes ago. music's a bit too emotional for a morning like this. I'm absolutely loving your messages. Our deep dive into The Cure's Disintegration continues. Thank you so much to Ben and Nikki from Bodega for such a thoughtful, insightful introduction to that track. It's so true. This is such a great album. It means so much to people. This is Simon, who's was in Crawley, at least in 1989, as you know, with The Cure's hometown. He says, growing up there, our band became a beacon in the cultural desert of the town. I saw them play some unusual places, including the local park and a benefit gig in the community centre in my road. By 1989, they were a symbol that you could get out of Crawley. Simon Branch, thank you very much for that. Lauren, Johnny Wren here. In the summer of 89, I was 18 with a job at a campsite in the south of France called La Prairie de la Mer, working on the main venue named the Long Bar. There was a dude who'd been there for years. He was nicknamed Long Bar Pete, who was very much in charge of the music. One warm afternoon, he stuck a tape in the deck. It was all tapes back then. And this mellow music with a twangy bass rang out. It was Disintegration, and I was hooked. What a summer, but slightly disconcerting to realise it was 35 years ago. Where did the time go? See, this is the difficulty, because I'm having that, like with a child who was a Cure fan who was leaving school to like all of that, and then the music of the Cure. It's almost too much, but we're loving it. We just got to crest the emotional wave, Johnny. Go with it, ride it. Lauren, I was 5 or 6 and had a tape from the charity shop which had The Cure on. I've been a lifelong fan ever since. I'm loving the deep dive today. I was born in May 1989 and I'm listening to the show now as a new mum with my own 6-week-old baby, thinking about what my mum must have been feeling, waiting for my arrival, hearing these songs on the radio 35 years ago. It's almost too wistful this morning, Katie. I can't cope. Congratulations on the baby. Lots of love. Josh says, Lauren, this week in 89 I was busy being born. Happy birthday. It was a few years before I got around to listening to The Cure. Loving today's deep dive. It's been my birthday week and preparing to move back to Manchester, the city of my birth. Six Music's been a great help through all the stressful emotional admin that's involved. Thank you all. Thank you for listening, Josh. Best of luck on this new chapter. It sounds really exciting. Nikki says, Lauren, my first concert, I was 13. It was a coach trip to the Prayer Tour at Wembley. When Disintegration came out, the ticket was about £19.50. It's still up in my loft somewhere. This tour and album shaped my subsequent teenage years. Many more Cure concerts that I can actually even count now. On one occasion, I got backstage after meeting Perry and Roger. I ran away before meeting Robert as I was so worried that meeting my childhood hero would be a disaster. Biggest regret of my life. Yeah, he's absolutely lovely. It would have been great. I'm loving this 1989 deep dive. Have even booked the day off work to work from home to follow. Really glad to have you tuned in, Nikki, and hopefully one day you will get to meet Robert.